Hi, it's Tim once again from the Indie Bands blog. I'm based in England, and I don't really know why. I should be out in America, because I'm heading out there once again, going off to New York to have a chat with Marla Mase. Marla, thanks very much for giving the time this afternoon. I know you're extremely busy.
No problem, of course. I'm really thrilled to be here, Tim.
I was particularly interested in catching up with you as quickly as I could do, because you've just come back from a tour or doing something out in China, and I was wondering what happened in China, how that happened, and whether you're planning on doing anything else internationally or even nationally.
Sure. I just got back from doing this Global Peace Day event in China, which was actually really quite interesting because it didn't happen the way you would normally think things would happen. I was a year and a half ago. I was doing this a sound check before a gig, just like a small club down in New York, and I was doing a sound check of my song Scream, and there was this one person there. There was this Chinese woman that was there, and she was, and I saw that she really liked it. Like, she was dancing and, seemed really happy when we were doing it, even though the song is about sex trafficking. But it's like a lively song. And so afterward, we got off and okay, we're ready for the show. And then she came over to me and she was like, I really love your work, There's just something about you that I really like. You're just really interesting. And I was like, thanks, And I had just released my first album, Brief Night Out, and it was even before the second one, so I was really into talking to people about all my stuff, and she was really nice. So we just started talking about what she does, and she said that she brings people over to China. She does concerts in China as well, but more classical stuff. She brings American, she brought all these American genius musicians over there to play these kids, and then she did the exchange and brought Chinese people here. And I was like, that was cool. And then we met because she thought maybe there was something that she could do with me, but then she said, really, I'm more of a classical thing. So we had met, and it was a really nice meeting, and that was that. A year and a half later, a few months ago, I got this call from her. It was like, hi, Marla, this is Xi. I don't even know if you remember me, but I've never forgotten you. I've always remembered you, and I think I have this opportunity for you to go to China. Friend could give me a call. So I give her a call, and she's like, my friend is the head of the Friends of the UN in China, and he's looking for artists to go, and I told him he has to bring you. And I was like, whoa, I couldn't.
I'm thinking of something there, sort of Confucian to say, but I can't think of anything to say, so I'm going to come up with the English one. Out of little acorns, great oaks grow?
Totally. Actually, totally. Someone else said to me, it's like, you knock on doors, and then a window opens. Because it was totally out of nowhere. And I couldn't even I was thinking about her right before that. At least I was like, who was that Chinese? Remember I met that, I remembered her, but I didn't even remember her name. And it was like, whoa. I remember exactly. I was standing in the village, and I'm like, whoa. And I'm calling her back. So anyway, we met the next day. I was like, yeah. We met the next day, and then as soon as she saw me, she was worried. She was like, Marla, you should have dressed better. And I was like, oh shit. But she was, because I thought she wanted a rock and roll, because I wanted him to bring rock and roll. So I dressed rock and roll, whatever. But that was fine. So I meet the guy, and he, spoke with me. He looked at some of my videos, listened to some of the songs. He was there with two of his assistants, interns, and he was like, sure, I'll forward you the invitation now. And he literally is on his cell phone. He forwards me something, and I get this thing. It's and then there's this formal, you've been invited to, to perform as, at the UN, Friends of the UN, first peace conference in Linzhou, China. And I'm like, that's it? He's like, yeah, I'm going to go. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, no, I just couldn't believe it. It was very surreal, and he was like, how many people in your band? And I was like, well, I have this. And he was like, I could have brought, 10 people, but, I chose to bring the basic band, the classic rock, bass, drums, sure, guitar. I brought my backup. And then we actually brought a videographer as well, because I knew I had to get footage of this. There was no way I was going. And I was like, and they said something about writing a song for us. I was like, yeah, I'll definitely write a song, And that was that. I mean, until we actually got on the plane, I couldn't quite believe that it was actually going to happen. And maybe that's just my own personality, but I was kind of like, no way. And my band, my co-writer, he was in China the 2 years before, and so I always had this idea that I don't know. I had the China. So many people I know have been to China, not musicians, just other people, just the China thing. And I actually was quoted in an interview once when someone asked me, like, because of the type of music I do, they said, have you ever worried about being censored? This is like 6 months ago. And I was like, well, there was one time, this is before this time, I thought if I was going to China, like, I'd have to censor all my songs because there's no way. And here I am, like, and I had to censor that article. I was scared they were going to see it because before you go to China, you do have to send them, all your music. And I did. I had to, like, I sent them the songs that I knew would be okay. I have a song called That Wall, and I knew that wasn't going to fly, because it was like, anyway. So that was it. So it was great. So we ended up going. And so we were like the one rock band, and they ended up taking all these other artists, like fine artists, painters and stuff. And we were there, and, there was the festival. It was basically, based, there is a UN Global Peace Day, actually, on September 21st every year. All over the world there are events. And so this event was the first one that this city, Linzhou, China, did. And it was really interesting. Like, that's all I could say. The whole thing was interesting. It was a 6-day whirlwind. I mean, they had us doing all this, political agenda stuff. And but it was really, the people loved it. They really loved us. They're like dying. They're dying for rock and roll there, and they're dying for artists. Like when I performed, a girl came over to me afterward. One of the translator girls, I mean, she's from Beijing, and she was just like, Marla, my friends didn't even know what you were saying, but they knew what you were saying because you're so passionate. And that was really exciting, Yeah. Because they really, and I got interviewed by, certain Chinese, radio stations, and the song that we wrote for it, Piece of Peace, I think is pretty kick-ass.
I did feature that video on the website, and I'll put a link to it underneath this video. I think it was the end of last month, or might have been beginning of this month, December, that I got that up. Not sure when, but anyway, I'll link to that. It's a great song. Great song.
Thank you. I saw that you caught that. I was like, Tim got it. Thank you, Tim. Yeah, I was really happy, and we got a lot of footage of China in the video. Yeah. That was China, and so we're back, and actually that same woman may have other things for me to do too. I called her, I thanked her, I was so, and she may have other gigs for me, her own stuff. But in addition to that, I am working on doing tours actually in Europe, maybe in the UK, Germany.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah, I'd love to, because I have some people I'd like to meet there, Tim. UK. Yeah, I've had some good support there, really good support, and possibly in Germany and Scandinavia. So we're working on that right now. I was looking at like the end of March, so that's exciting. And I just did a tour in the northeast of America. So we'll see, So there's stuff happening, and there's other stuff happening. I have a new show, a multimedia festival, which my director is heavily looking into getting into all these festivals and stuff, actually internationally as well. So I think there's a lot of.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
One question, and it's really interesting how you got into the China situation, because one thing I talk to a lot of small bands about is how do they actually get out of their local environment? And you're really saying, or seem to be saying, because I first wrote about you back in, it was pretty well 2 years ago exactly. It was December 2010. I think we probably first exchanged the emails in November, which isn't bad timing for me. It can take me up to 2 years to get to an email, so that wasn't bad. But you've obviously worked hard since then. Is that the lesson that you would put out to people that want to do something? Just say, keep at it.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it is, you can't wait around for anything to happen. You have to constantly be doing stuff, looking for stuff, putting yourself out there. I mean, I've literally, I released my first album 2 years ago. That's when we spoke. And I feel I'm pretty proud of what I've done in 2 years. But I think anyone, it's just like, it's my sweat and blood.
Sure.
So no one's going to knock on my door. It sounds like the China story is like a knock on the door. But if I hadn't been doing what I was doing, which is, playing, but not just playing, playing gigs, being out there, talking to people. If I hadn't talked to that woman, if I wasn't even receptive, like, hey, yeah, that's cool. What are you doing? And meeting her, that wouldn't have happened. But it's just like all of that. And then that's the one thing I've learned. And I didn't quite know I had it in me until I released that first album. And I realized, because it's one thing, the creative part is really great and fun. Of course, that's, where my heart is. But really the work starts when you have the stuff and then you got to get out. So that's the work. Like, how am I going to get this heard? How are people going to hear it? How are they going to get to see? I mean, it's a full-time job. It really is.
Sure.
And, but I believe that if you persist and you believe in yourself and, things happen as I see they're happening. And I always had a gut with, that internationally, actually, that's not a better audience for me, but I think that's more where probably my audience sits. And, and so I would tell anyone, no one's coming knocking on the door. You just got to really be proactive and do stuff. And, I did a lot of social networking and, I never thought, I used to joke, like, are you kidding? I'm on Twitter. Like, oh my God, like, no way, but it really changed my life. I met you there, for example. And, there's a lot of stuff you can do. And they say, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. And I think I think that's important too. Don't waste time where, you're not wanted, kind of. Anyway, so that's what I would just say,
Okay.
Yeah.
When I first came across your work, the first piece of work I got hold of was A Brief Night Out, which I think at the time I described as a sort of theatrical production. Speak, which was your second one, and to be honest, my memory is appalling, and I can't quite remember when I reviewed that, so my bad, sorry. But one thing that came across is that you're very much the performance artist, a poet. Is that how you would describe yourself?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good description. It's I always describe myself as, I say I'm a writer-performer. And to me, writer means poet. Other people, of course, are like, oh, you're that singer, which always feels so strange to me because it's like, yeah, I'm singing, but I just don't think of myself as a singer, But that's how people right away see you. But definitely, my stuff is theatrical. I mean, A Brief Night Out started out as a play and then became a rock opera. And the truth is, Tim, is that I'm new to music. Like, the reason why I got into it, I mean, I've been a writer for a long time. I write plays, I write performance pieces, and I was working on I was working on doing an abridged version of a longer play I have called Man Woman. And the reason why I called it A Brief Night Out is because I was like, I'm going to invite some people to hear some of my writing, and it's short, so it was like a brief night, And so basically that's how it started. But then I realized there was a story to it, and then I just started writing songs. I started writing songs, and that really came out of, now this is like a whole other thing, is that there was like some personal stuff in my life. Basically, the decade of 2000 to 2010 was like really tough, and basically my marriage was falling apart. But my daughter developed an eating disorder and pretty severe, and then depression. It really started at 11, and between the ages of 11 and 17, it was pretty hellish actually. Just seeing her, basically like disappear in many ways, just not physically, but also emotionally, and becoming this zombie. And so, I was pretty strong about it. And she was in many different treatment centers over the years. And basically, I was like, how do you deal with, how do you stand, how do you put up with that? I'm like, I'm okay, But eventually, I fell apart. Let's just put it that way. Like, I eventually did really crash, and kind of had like this. It was like, breakdown. I mean, I wasn't hospitalized, but, it was pretty tough. But out of that, what I realized was that, I mean, it was anxiety beyond. But basically out of the anxiety, I mean, I realized that one of the things that calmed me down for a second, even if it was like a 1 second of the day, was singing. Right. Because I was never a singer. There were a lot of songwriters in my family, my brother, my mother, my sister-in-law. And I just realized that like singing made me feel better. So like I just started to sing, and I started going to my acting group and singing. And then someone was like, I really like that. Like, I really see this as you. Like, even though you sing imperfectly, like, and then I started adding my monologues to other people's songs. And then I just started writing a ton of songs. It was like they just came to me like, woof, and I said, shit. And I basically did 2 shows, like me singing a cappella, which is, these songs. And then I have to find a musician. That's it. I got to find a musician. And someone introduced me to Tomas Donker. And I was very lucky that the first person I met we hit it off, and we've, now we're 4 years later, still doing stuff. So it really, it came out of that, which is a whole other story, which I can talk about another point, as far as the issues with my daughter. But like she's thank God doing okay now. But it really did. So basically, the singer-songwriter part of me came out later. It's really me being a writer, performer, poet. Somehow switched into the singing, but somehow the music has become my thing where I'm really putting myself out there and getting known as it, which is also funny because when I was younger, I used to say I really should be a rock star, but I don't write music and I don't sing, so oh well. And I used to say that all the time.
That's an interesting thing.
And I always wanted to write a play. I mean, I talked about it for years. Like, I want to write a play about 4 women discovering their rock and roll persona. But I guess I lived it, So now I'm this rocker, or so they say.
Speaking of your daughter, I know you've put up a couple of videos of Lyle, I think her name is.
Yeah.
But being American, it's a completely different word entirely.
It's Lyle. Nobody gets it right, not even here. It's her name, actually.
So she's obviously getting out there and performing, and you said that it comes from your parents. It's obviously a genetic pool that you've all got. You're all singers, and I wish her all the best. And which does remind me, she hasn't replied to my email yet, or she hasn't responded to your email yet.
No, she told me she got it. She actually just got in. She goes to school in L.A., and she just got into New York, and she...
Lael, please send me that email.
She
Thank
will.
You very much.
And she's sleeping right now in the other room, and I'll tell her.
Shout to them.
No, she wants to. She was really happy to hear from you, actually, and she's...
Right. Well, I look forward to that. So I look forward to introducing Lael to everyone as soon as possible. Great singer as well. Now then, I really appreciate your time, and I'm going to wind up with my usual question that causes problems. What else should I have asked you, Marla?
Well, about my childhood. No, I'm kidding. How I grew up. No, what you really should have asked me is, no, you shouldn't have asked me. What I would like to say, basically is, there is one extra thing actually about this whole eating disorder thing, I guess I would like to say about it, is that that's just like an important issue to me. And one of my songs that will be on my Speak Deluxe album, which is going to be released in February. It's just basically the same album with 6 new songs on it, including Piece of Peace. But Anorexia is a song I wrote. It's a reggae tune, and it's, like I said, it's a fun reggae tune. I don't try to be Jamaican, so it's okay. I have Garrison Hawk doing that. But basically, it's important. It's an issue because it is, to me, the messages that are put out there, with, just what the machine puts out as far as images and what women should be, or even like, the pop stars, all of it. It makes me crazy because I just know how much damage it does. Even though I know that eating disorders are not only about, imagery, it's definitely something that comes from within. But it's important for me that, this is the one way that my daughter and I are linking up as far as musically, because we're very different, is that she has one of her songs is called The Good Fight, and it's about her struggles, and my anorexia song, and just kind of, and the proceeds from these songs are going to go to this organization called Project Heal, which is to help people afford treatment. But just my whole message is, what you should have asked me is like my message is like to like people, like it's like basically like I end shows with this. I'm like, to women, like, love your ass. Like, I really like women, like, love your fucking ass. I'm sorry, I hope I'm cursing, but because it really is important, because I'm like, it's going to change your life. Because, so many women, especially white women, like to hide our asses, and like, it sounds ridiculous, but it's like really important. Like, because like embarrassed about our bodies, and it's just like, no, like your life will be easier. Like, you got to like be who you are and just stand in it. And like, and that is just like, love your ass, love yourself. But really, it's like important to me. And so I just have to say that. I mean, it's like, and women laugh at, or even men. It's like, but it's true. I want to give out buttons, and I'm not a button giver. I'm not an activist. And yet everyone, I joke because I'm like, I'm not an activist, and yet I'm being led. It's like, I got literally a messenger. I got an award, a thing that says I'm a messenger of peace, Tim. So, and also, and now they love you. But it's just like, that's just a personal thing. And, because I saw how much, my daughter and other people have struggled, and not just girls, actually. It's boys as well, and men and women. So just want to say that. I don't have a cause, but just love your ass. No, that's it.
Well, I think that's an important message to end with, actually.
Right.
Speaking of which, of ending, thanks very much again for your time, and I look forward to hearing the deluxe version of Speak when it comes out in February. So let's finish off with one of the new songs that's going to appear on there, and that's called Blog.
The universe, full of words, thoughts, and ideas. I just sit here and stare into space. What happened to my arms? I can't find my legs. Where is my face? I just sit here and stare into space. I am lost in a crowded painting, surrounded by colors, dots, lines, a speck, screaming to be noticed in a world where sound is an impossibility.